Hello everyone, my name is Juan Barros and I'm gonna be talking about the truth behind Christopher Columbus. First I'm gonna go over what is commonly known about Columbus and the misconceptions. As all we know, Columbus is credited as the discoverer of the American continent. Uh, Christopher Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy, and at an early age he began his career as a sailor. Columbus proposed to the king that the earth was round and that he could go to the Indies faster by sailing west. And if that was true, then he could establish trade routes to the Indies and enter the spice and silk trade with Asian countries. The monarch finally accepted the proposition and he went on to his journey. And he first landed in the Caribbean islands found in the Americas, and he thought they were the eastern islands of Asia. Today we celebrate the discovery of the Americas by Columbus on Columbus Day every October. Now I'm gonna go over some facts. During the Middle Ages, virtually all scholars and educated Europeans knew that the earth was round. The Vikings had also traveled to the American continent long before Columbus did. Columbus also miscalculated distances, and he thought that Asia was closer to Europe by west, because he thought that the circumference of the earth was shorter than it actually is. He wasn't expecting to find a continent between Europe and Asia. Another fact is that Columbus died without knowing that what he encountered was actually a new continent. Amerigo Vespucci, who was another state navigator and map maker of the time, did know that what Columbus encountered was in fact a new continent. So America was named after America. Columbus also made many atrocities as the governor of the Indies. For example, when the natives rebelled, he ordered his men to kill the rebellious natives, and then the dismembered bodies of the rebellious natives were displaced in the streets to discourage further rebellion. Columbus, as any of us, had many desires and dreams. Columbus idolized Marco Polo, who was a traveler of ancient times, and he wrote all of his stories narrating adventures in the Indies. And because he was obsessed with the Indies, he wanted to go there himself. As a fanatic of the Catholic Church, he dreamed of Christianizing the Indies and of finding the Garden of Eden and the Holy Sepulchre. He also wanted to visit the fabled cities mentioned in the Bible. The monarch of Spain rejected his proposal of establishing trade with Asia several times prior to accepting it. Columbus had to go to Father Juan Perez to tell him, who was the confessor of the Queen, to tell him about his ideas about establishing trade with Asia and of the possibility of Christianizing the Asians. Then Juan Perez then went on to the monarchs to tell them that Columbus' ideas were both beneficial for the kingdom and for the church. So that was what convinced them to the proposal, and finally accepted. Christopher Columbus traveled 4 different times to the Americas, and every time he went and returned to Spain, his proposal changed. His first proposal was to establish trade routes with the Indies, and with that such easy access to the Indies, he could also Christianize the Indians. As he returned from his first trip, he was he was very enthusiastic with the uncivilized natives he encountered. He proposed to the king that he will get all the gold they had, and that he will colonize all the land he encountered. He also told the king that he will colonize the natives and also Christianize them, and that he would exploit them as slaves. On his fourth voyage, Columbus told the king that he will finally get to the Inland Asia, that he will colonize the land where the Garden of Eden and the Holy Sepulchre were at. In his first voyage, he was certain that he would reach the eastern islands of Asia. A sailor by the name of Rodrigo was the first man to see land. The king of Spain promised that the first man to get to see land would be given a reward of a yearly pension for life, but Rodrigo never got the reward because Columbus claimed that he has seen land the evening before, so the reward went to Columbus instead. Columbus first landed in the Bahamas to celebrate the fact that he finally reached land. And then they finally settled in an island he named La Hispaniola. In La Hispaniola, he encountered two different tribes of natives. There were the Pacific and submissive Arawaks and the aggressive Caribs. Columbus thought that he possessed the perfect gift for the natives, and it was Christianity and civility. And he thought that those were reasons enough to govern the natives. For his second voyage, Columbus focused on the Caribs, focus on the Arawaks, because the Caribs were too aggressive. The cooperating Arawaks brought all the gold they had willingly because they didn't care about possessions. The little gold they had was gold accumulated over the years, so they eventually ran out of gold. At that point, the settlers start killing the natives because they thought that the natives just became unwilling. Then Columbus established a trade system that stated that every Arawak of 14 years and over would carry a hawk's bow around their neck, and they had to fill it with gold dust every 3 months. Those who didn't met the treaty were tortured and killed. Columbus also shipped many natives back to Spain to be sold as slaves. He thought that through slavery, the natives could be made to abandon their bad habits and reward the instructors with a lifetime of work. By living in Spain, the Caribs could abandon their inhuman custom, which they have of eating man, and there in Castile, learning the language, they will much more readily receive baptism and secure the welfare of their souls. For his third voyage, he landed on the northern coast of South America, in the islands of Margarita and Trinidad. When Columbus returned to La Hispaniola, there was a rebellion against his administration led by a settler named Roldan. When he got to the island, tables were turned so much that the majority of the settlers in La Hispaniola were in favor of Roldan. So Roldan gained power and had things done his way. The settlers in the island wanted a better system than the treaty, one in which both land and people were given to individual settlers for them to exploit as they each wanted. And it was a system called repartimientos, and it was placed by Roldan. This new system of labor meant for the Arawaks more work, more clothes, and more European traditions. Thousands of Arawaks were abused. After continuous friction between Roldan and Columbus, the monarchs sent a visitator to settle things right and be the authority while a new governor was appointed. A disobedience by one of the Columbus's brothers led the visitator to force punishment on the Columbuses. Then he imprisoned them and sent them back to Spain. The king was surprised and indignated by this and let them free. But he never returned the title of governor back to Columbus. So he appointed a new governor and sent them back to the Indies. Columbus asked the king to restore him as the governor many times, and that if he was given a fourth voyage, he would finally reach mainland Asia, and that he would colonize the land where the Garden of Eden and the Holy Sepulchre were at. Finally, the proposition of having direct communication with Asia was convincing enough for the king to give Columbus a fourth voyage. For his fourth voyage, he wasn't allowed in La Hispaniola, and he attempted to land on it, but the new governor didn't let him in. Columbus moved on to explore more land in South America, and he also landed in some parts of Central America, but found nothing out of the ordinary. He had a troublesome trip with many currents. He lost his ships, and he finally got stuck in Jamaica. The new governor was unwilling to help until he finally led Columbus' messenger to get a ship and go back to Spain to inform the monarchs of Columbus's condition. Finally, a relief expedition was organized in La Hispaniola, and he returned to Spain in 1504. He's said to have died 2 years later in 1506 in the same city, Valladolid, Spain. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.